Welcome to our explainer on the hidden costs of workplace monitoring. Today we're diving into how surveillance that's totally legal can actually create environments that are genuinely harmful for employees.
So let's start with this powerful idea because it really sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. It's a bit of a paradox, right? That things that are perfectly within the law can still cause some pretty significant harm. We're going to unpack exactly how that happens. To really get a handle on the psychological damage, we first have to understand just how massive modern workplace monitoring has become. This isn't some sci-fi concept anymore. It's happening right now in a ton of companies. So who's being watched? Honestly, it's not some niche issue that's only happening in one sector. From the warehouse floor to corporate employees working from their own homes, from call centers to gig economy jobs, this technology is touching a massive and incredibly diverse part of the entire workforce.
And the tools themselves, they're just as varied. We're talking about software that logs every single keystroke you make, systems that flag you for being idle if your mouse just stops moving for a bit, and of course, algorithms that score your performance based on data you might not even know they're collecting. It's an incredibly detailed level of oversight.
And this chart just shows how unbelievably widespread this has become. A staggering 90% of US firms use at least one form of this kind of tech. Let that sink in. This isn't the exception to the rule anymore. It is fast becoming the norm.
Okay, so if it's this common and it's legal, how does monitoring cross that line into causing real psychological harm? Well, it turns out there's a pretty clear process that researchers have mapped out.
You can actually break this process down into 4 key steps. It all starts by creating this state of constant alertness. That, in turn, forces an unhealthy pace of work, which then strips away a worker's sense of autonomy. And finally, it creates this culture of silence. Let's look at each one. So that first step is something psychologists call hypervigilance. Just imagine feeling like someone is constantly looking over your shoulder. You'd start to second-guess everything, right? Every email you write, every little pause you take. This creates this constant, low-level anxiety and this nagging fear of making a mistake.
Next up, that feeling of always being watched directly leads to a dangerous level of work intensity. Just look at these numbers. Almost half, 46% of constantly monitored workers feel like they're working too fast for their own health and safety. Compare that to just 15% for those who aren't monitored. The surveillance basically becomes this silent taskmaster, pushing people way too hard.
Third, these systems just systematically chip away at a worker's autonomy. See, the algorithm doesn't just watch, it directs. It's assigning your tasks, it's setting your pace, it's evaluating you, and sometimes it can even automatically trigger disciplinary action. Workers stop feeling like trusted professionals and start feeling more like cogs in a machine.
And finally, maybe the most insidious part of all, the system teaches people to be quiet, without anyone ever saying a word. When every single action is logged and scored, you learn pretty quickly that it's just safer to keep your head down. The risk of speaking up, or suggesting a change, or pointing out a problem, it just starts to feel way too high.
And this slide really gets to the heart of that paradox we started with. Sure, there are illegal things, like biased algorithms that discriminate. But the real story here, the thing that affects so many people, is often what's perfectly legal. The insane productivity pressure, the way it indirectly silences people, and the fear-based environments it creates. These things are undeniably harmful.
Now, let's talk about the real-world consequences, for people's health and well-being, because this isn't just some abstract theory. It has a profound human cost.
And the impact is pretty severe. We're seeing increased anxiety and burnout, of course, but also higher rates of actual physical symptoms like headaches and chronic pain. It completely destroys the psychological safety you need for a healthy team and just erodes trust in the company. Researchers even have a term for it, stress proliferation. It's not one single stressor, it's this layered, compounding psychological weight.
This quote from a worker, it just captures the feeling perfectly. It's a total shift from a supportive culture where you're trusted to do your job to this almost adversarial one, where you feel like the system is just looking for any reason to penalize you.
And think about this. For the millions of people working from home, this problem gets magnified. When that surveillance software is on your own laptop, in your own personal space, that boundary between work and life just evaporates. There's no escape, no safe space to really decompress.
So here's a crucial point. This harm, a lot of the time, isn't coming from a single person, like some mean manager. The whole nature of the pressure has changed.
You don't need a bad boss anymore. The pressure, the constant judgment, it becomes systemic.
It's literally embedded in the software, in the dashboards, and the algorithms that manage the workday. The harm is automated and it's normalized.
And that leaves us with this final, kind of haunting thought. The most effective, and maybe the most damaging form of pressure, is the one that's silent, constant, and automated. No one has to raise their voice, because the quiet, persistent judgment of the system does all the work for them. And it really makes you question what we gain in productivity and what we might be losing in our own humanity.